After a lifetime on the streets, this giant talking cat arrives at a shelter and then says one astonishing word. Clancy had been hanging around a house, hoping for food and a warm place to rest. His orange fur bore the scars of past injuries, and his green eyes reflected a deep sense of despair. What truly set him apart was his unique meow, raspy, high-pitched, and full of character. One day, the woman living in the house heard this unusual sound and was taken aback. She had never encountered a cat that mewed like that before. When she pointed Clancy out to her husband, they joked that it seemed as if he was trying to communicate. Clancy was not just another stray, he had something to say, and soon he would. The lovable giant's true nature was about to be revealed. The caring woman began providing him with food and fresh water, and Clancy found a cozy spot nearby to rest. She noticed his hesitance to leave, which saddened her as she thought about his past. Clancy had spent most of his life on the streets, enduring the tough urban environment of Eastern Oregon for nearly 7 years. It was uncertain if he had ever known the comfort of a real home or the love of a caring owner. Life had dealt him a rough hand, leaving him marked from countless encounters with other strays. Despite his struggles, Clancy had a way of making people stop, take a second look, and smile. His cheeky round face endeared him to many, especially the kind woman who had noticed him. Grateful for the refuge he found, Clancy seemed to thrive in her presence. Determined to secure a proper home for Clancy, the woman reached out to local shelters, but the response was always the same. They were at capacity. Given Clancy's history as a street cat, the chances of adoption seemed slim. Shelters were concerned that his time on the streets might have made him too difficult to handle, leaving Clancy's future uncertain. However, the woman and her husband had witnessed his gentle and affectionate behavior. Despite her persistent efforts to convince various shelters, none were willing to take him in. One day, the compassionate stranger who had been leaving food for Clancy observed that he was not in good shape. His coat was less vibrant than usual, and he appeared weaker and more fragile. Clancy typically loved to greet people with head bumps, but today he barely had the strength to stand. It was painful to see the once spirited cat in such distress. Clancy desperately needed help. The stranger wrapped him in a blanket and brought him to a small local rescue, a place they hadn't yet approached. Although the shelter was minimal and poorly funded, offering only a temporary refuge, it provided Clancy with a safe space to recover. The shelter staff quickly grew fond of the large, affectionate cat, but they recognized that he required much more care and attention than their crowded facility could provide. They conducted health tests on Clancy and were taken aback by the results. Clancy tested positive for feline immunodeficiency virus, commonly found in outdoor cats who have faced tough conditions and frequent altercations. His body displayed signs of a hard life on the streets, with old scars, some jagged and others faded, marking his ginger fur like a map. His teeth were in poor shape due to malnutrition and neglect, and it appeared his bladder infection had gone untreated for months, causing him significant pain and suffering. Despite all this, Clancy remained a gentle giant. It was evident that he had spent his life on the streets, yet he was different from other feral cats. While many outdoor cats tend to be nervous and cautious around humans, fiercely self-sufficient and often unfamiliar with kindness, Clancy stood out. His battered appearance did not reflect his personality. He was affectionate and warm. He actively sought human interaction and would brighten up whenever shelter staff approached his cage, eagerly moving forward for a pet. Clancy's behavior was a puzzle. Despite years of street life, he held on to the hope that someone would care for him. Now that he had a safe environment, his loving nature continued to blossom. The shelter staff soon noticed a peculiarity about him, similar to what the woman who fed him had observed. His meow had a whimsical quality, almost resembling words, which brought plenty of joy to the team. However, there was an issue. Due to Clancy's numerous medical requirements, the small shelter lacked the necessary resources to provide adequate care. They recognized that shelters throughout Oregon were facing challenges with overcrowding and insufficient funding, but they were committed to ensuring Clancy received the care he needed. They believed that one day he would become a fantastic companion for someone, but first, he required assistance. They reached out to the cat adoption team in Sherwood, Oregon, hoping the agency could take Clancy in. When Heather Svoboda, the communications and development manager at CAT, learned about his situation, she immediately agreed that the gentle cat could be transferred to them. She was eager to meet this extraordinary cat and confirm whether his mews truly resembled words. Before long, Clancy was moved to CAT, where he received the essential medical treatment he urgently needed. He underwent neutering, received treatment for a bladder infection, and had dental surgery to address his painful, decaying teeth. After several weeks of care, Clancy began to feel much better, so much so that he started to talk even more. His unique squeaks and chirps became a delightful background at the shelter, and the staff adored his peculiar conversations. By that time, everyone had fallen in love with Clancy, and now that he was recovering well, they were eager to find him the perfect home. After years of living on the streets, he deserved a cozy space, a soft bed, and someone to care for him. However, despite their affection for Clancy, they understood that finding him a forever home would be challenging. His large, teddy bear-like appearance was undeniably charming, but being an older cat meant that most people preferred adopting kittens. Additionally, Clancy had feline immunodeficiency virus, which required regular medical checkups and treatment for related health issues, as well as the need for him to live indoors to prevent the virus from spreading. It was a lot to expect from any potential adopter. Soon enough, Clancy would surprise everyone, and the shelter staff would discover a way to make him appealing to potential adopters. One day, while exploring his temporary space, something remarkable happened. Clancy had settled in his favorite spot, soaking up a sunbeam by the window, when a volunteer came to show him some love. As was his custom, Clancy greeted her with his unique raspy meow. He always enjoyed visitors at his cage, offering headbutts or rolling over for belly rubs. While purring contentedly, his meow suddenly transformed, becoming clearer than ever. The volunteer could have sworn she heard him utter something surprising, "Hello." Initially, she thought it was just a coincidence. After all, cats don't speak, do they? But Clancy gazed up at her with soft, affectionate eyes and meowed again, clearly articulating hello. The volunteers had joked about how Clancy seemed to converse with them, but this felt different. The volunteer chuckled and gave the joyful giant an extra scratch behind the ears before rushing off to share her discovery. News quickly spread through the shelter about the enormous talking cat who appeared to express real human words. Initially met with skepticism, the volunteers began filming their interactions with Clancy, and it became evident that he was engaging in conversation. The shelter had discovered Clancy's standout feature, something sure to capture people's interest, regardless of his age and health challenges. They started sharing videos of Clancy chatting with the volunteers, drawing in thousands of viewers amazed by his affectionate behavior and humorous exchanges. It was hard to believe this was a cat that had once lived on the streets. Sandy, a woman from Oregon who had been following Clancy's story since it began, was among those who watched the videos. She had always loved cats, particularly those needing special attention. Upon seeing Clancy's video, her heart soared, and she instantly felt she had to meet him. There was something in the way he chirped and the sparkle in his eyes when he spoke. It felt like Clancy was reaching out to her directly. The shelter had been transparent about the additional care Clancy would require, but that didn't deter Sandy. She was confident she could provide him with a loving home full of affection and safety for his lifetime. She reached out to the shelter and soon found herself on the way to meet the large ginger cat. When she arrived at the shelter, excitement coursed through her. Sandy had always had cats, but just a few months prior, she had lost her last one to old age. Her home felt hollow, and she was about to start searching for a new pet when Clancy's first video appeared. It seemed like fate. With no other cats at home, she felt equipped to offer Clancy the experience and patience he needed for a happy life. Sandy believed they were destined to be together. As she entered, anticipation filled the air as she looked forward to meeting Clancy, the chatty cat. She just hoped for a connection. Heather guided her to the spot where Clancy was resting, and there he was, the large orange ball of fluff relaxing in his favorite spot, seeming to wait for her. His vibrant green eyes rose to meet hers, and he let out a soft chirp of recognition upon seeing his visitor. Sandy knelt beside Clancy, extending her hand gently. True to his gentlemanly nature, he playfully bumped her with a soft thud, his favorite gesture. He purred deeply, nuzzling against her hand and letting out a loving meow. As Sandy cradled Clancy for the first time, she was struck by his gentle demeanor. He was larger than she had expected, radiating a comforting warmth that felt reassuring. His round cheeks were even more charming in person, and his soothing purr resonated in her chest. In that moment, she knew he was the cat meant for her. From that initial meow, Clancy had been chatty, eager to express himself to the woman who might finally offer him the love he had always sought. It was clear to everyone that they were meant for each other, and Clancy had found his ideal companion. The adoption process was swift, and soon he was on his way to his forever home. Sandy took special care to ensure his transition was smooth, arranging cozy spots, placing litter boxes conveniently, and providing plenty of toys to keep him entertained. As an indoor cat, Sandy wanted to ensure Clancy wouldn't get bored, but he didn't ask for much. He simply craved love, which he received abundantly from her. Over time, Clancy established himself as the ruler of the household, often trailing after Sandy and chirping as if he had something important to say. His remarkable mews, sometimes resembling actual words, never ceased to surprise her, adding to the charm of this extraordinary cat. Sandy felt fortunate to fulfill Clancy's dreams at last. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comment section. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.